Hey, this is Rob Swanson with the Real Estate Mogul Show. Let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Rob Swanson back with another Real Estate Mogul Show. Today, we're going to be talking about why your market matters. And if you're struggling to get deals consistently at an affordable price with low-cost marketing and turn on a cash flow and cash generating machine, it's not you. It's not the strategies you're using. It's the market you're in, and today we're going to prove it. So, gentlemen, welcome to the studio. We're going to get right into this. It's going to be a fun one. Hey, do us a favor. If you like the content we're putting out there, would you subscribe? Would you share it with your friends? And would you like it on all your various social media platforms? That just helps the algorithms help us, and we'll keep bringing you the goods. Welcome, gentlemen. What's happening?
What's up? What's up?
Hey, hey.
Hello, hello.
All good. We got
Everybody here.
yeah, Mike and
house.
Henry on the couch. We got Edgar is stuck in his crate, so he's not on camera. And we got Joe around the wall on the buttons today. Joe, you were out in front of the camera a couple weeks ago. That was a new event.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
It was, like I said in last show, it was a good sort of switch up. You know, lots of activity in the office, lots of things happening. So, you know, and I think Mike was out recovering his voice. Henry was working, plugging away like usual. And so, yeah, it was a good switch. It was a good switch up. I enjoyed it.
Yep.
Good conversation too.
I noticed something right there. Joe just said Mike was out recovering. Henry was working like usual.
Yep.
There was a clear delineation between the amount of effort and work put in between the two gentlemen on the couch.
Yeah. Mike's always sick, never here, and Henry was working per usual.
I was that week.
Dang.
I know
that's what I
that's
heard.
not true. Joe said it.
Yeah, that's just what I heard. I don't know.
Boy, you guys are putting words in my mouth now.
Well, hey, so tomorrow, 9 a.m. Wheels Up. Mike, you and I are jumping in the Mooney, and we're going to rocket our way over to the southwest corner of the great state of Tennessee. And we're going to go spin around the hoods of Memphis for a couple of days. We've got a group of folks through our virtual flip incubator program that are going to be joining us out there. And what they're going to do is spend some time with us going through the different neighborhoods in what we would call an easy profit city and just understanding the market dynamics. And why is this an easy profit city? Why would we want to invest virtually in an easy profit city? And just some of the nuances that you never get if you're looking through the computer screen at Google and Google Maps, and you're walking around, or you're logged into FreedomSoft, and you pop up the property snapshot, and you click the video, or you click the street view, and you scroll around inside of FreedomSoft, you never quite get the full effect and feel that you get when you're on the ground in a market. And the benefit to doing this type of a trip is that you get to experience it in real life. So you get to go from one neighborhood to another neighborhood. You get to see the sees, you get to smell the smells, you get to feel the feels, you get to hear the sounds, you get to just experience something that you don't get to do when you sit remotely and when you sit and do your business virtually. Now, the thing that I will always say is you can make money based on the data and based on the numbers and based on the process that we teach through our virtual flip system. But there's something about your level of skill and understanding and ability to read the data when you take a little bit of time out of your human existence and get on the ground in a market. So, Mike, we're wheels up tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to bust out that direction.
Yeah, we are. And I've never done a cross-country trip in a smaller airplane before, so we were talking about this yesterday.
Yep.
We've been up, multiple times and just kind of flown around or did a little mountain trip or something like that. But, yeah, this will be first-time experience. So it'll be
Yeah, and so it's going to be fun. Weather looks good. Looks like an easy flight. We got a little bit of a tailwind. It's going to push us out there fast.
How fast will it go?
We'll get to Memphis from Denver in about 3 hours and 45 to 3 hours and 50 minutes, roughly.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's about with I looked at it this morning, about a nine knot tailwind. And so we'll be on. We'll have oxygen, so we'll figure out what altitude we want to fly eastbound to pick up the best tailwind. So it should be fun. Should
Amazing.
Be fun.
This is your first time in the rocket?
It'll be second time, but I haven't done I've been in small airplanes multiple times, but touch and goes around an airport or fly over to another airport and grab lunch or something, something local, basically.
Yep.
So
Never throwing bags in the back, throwing oxygen on, filing an instrument flight plan, and going somewhere. So
haven't done it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be fun. So the purpose of this trip, though, is to get on the ground, take a group of our students, and get them out into the neighborhood. Because here's the thing that I'll tell you: the whole premise behind what we like to call through our virtual flip system an easy profit city means that the speed to deal. And the speed to deal is fast, and the cost to deal is low. Those are two criteria of an easy profit city. It has to be a city where the inventory, and in particular the distressed inventory, and the activity, and in particular the investor buying activity, is a match, or is a ratio that falls into what we often call the sweet spot. And the sweet spot is generally you've got enough distressed inventory that for low cost marketing and for a relatively short amount of time from the launch of your marketing, you're going to be getting inbound leads of both interested and motivated sellers that will accept your offer. That's on the inventory, the supply side of the equation. On the other side of the equation, you've got the activity. And so what you're looking for in the activity is activity that says there's a lot of buyers buying and you can figure out what they want. Now, if you followed our show, if you've listened to this before, you've heard I always talk about the 3-5-2-3. So you need 3 to 5 buyers buying 2 to 3 deals a month. And if you can find those people as a wholesaler, you've got quick and easy exit. You can build a multiple six-figure business off of a very small network of buyers. And what an easy profit city does is it orients you where the supply of deal flow is consistent and the exit, the ability to sell to an active investor buyer, is also consistent. That's the premise and the makeup of an easy profit city. Mike, you've coached people for years on our systems and on our stuff. What have you seen when people come into our program and say, I got to do it either in my backyard or I've picked XYZ city.
Yep.
We run the True Rank market ranking system. We look at it and say, is this qualified as an easy profit city? What happens to people when they go through that process? What's been your experience?
Yeah, so first off, it's a unique concept in that a lot of the messaging out there is, hey, here's how you buy and sell real estate. Just do it where you live. And it's sort of this default, not much thought put into it. And Rob, from day one, you've been teaching a very different method, which I always explain as live where you want, buy and sell where it makes sense. You told me that a long time ago. So,
and let me add one other thing.
Yep.
You said that the messaging out there is here's how to invest in real estate. Do it where you live. Or the messaging is, here's how to invest in real estate. Do it virtually. Pick any city you want. And our argument is, depending on where you live, doing it where you live may not make the most sense. And if you choose to go virtually, don't just pick any market, because your market matters. Your market matters more oftentimes than the strategy itself.
Yeah, that's a true statement. I think what really happens when people go through this process is multiple light bulbs turn on, because markets have a very different profile. You know, you mentioned we're going to Memphis tomorrow, lower price point. You compare that to something like San Francisco, California, you know, $1.2 million average home price, and they are very different markets. And we've had students come in and say, hey, I live here. We've got a couple that are on the West Coast now. Well, why don't I just buy and sell here? You know, in a market where average single family home is between $700,000 and $900,000. And so, you know, and Rob, I think it's worth you diving into your backstory a little bit on where and how you landed on this philosophy in marketing, because it's not that you just woke up one day and said, oh, well, what about this? You had very real world experience with different markets nationwide.
Yep.
That sort of formed this, you know, thesis or philosophy on investing. And I think that's worth diving into quick. My guess is some people listening to the podcast today have heard it, but I know a lot of them haven't. And so, you know, if you can rewind for a couple minutes back to when you were being coached and then started coaching, because I think it's 100% relevant to what we're talking about.
Yeah, when I got into this business, one of the things that I did, and this was back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I lived in Denver, still live in Denver, and at the time Denver had been going through a massive upswing and a boom. I mean, we were seeing 10, 14, 22% annual appreciation. It was just, prices were just skyrocketing. It was crazy. And that was because we had the DIA construction. So the airport was moved from Stapleton out to DIA and Pena Boulevard, where it lives today. We had the T-Rex. The entire I-25 corridor through downtown Denver was rebuilt and redone. It was billions of dollars worth of construction and infrastructure investment in the Denver area back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so that created a boom and an influx of people. So I lived here, and I was investing here initially. Now, I figured out how to apply a strategy of real estate investing that worked and solved a problem in a very competitive, very low distressed inventory, high-priced and appreciating market, and yet I wanted, you know, to grow my business. I wanted to continue my business. I wanted to do more deals. I wanted to make more money. I wanted all of these things. Well, fast forwarding here, I was having success in a very competitive market. I got invited to a national education company to join their mentor team. And so I joined their mentor team, and I had to pay my own way to join their mentor team. I had to go on multiple trips to join their mentor team, where I paid for all my own stuff. And I took time out of my day, my week, my month in order to go on these trips. So I made a significant investment in multiple trips to pay my own way and get this quote unquote education, but to basically be approved to join this mentor team that I was invited to. I went through that process. And a sidebar is, you're always going to pay for your education somehow, right? Sometimes people invest in joining a program and being around people that can teach them something. Other times, in my case, I spent probably $15,000 traveling with this mentoring team, different people on this mentoring team, to drop into different cities and learn the process. Now, we were not learning a virtual flipping process at that time, but what it gave me the opportunity to do was get into one city one week, another city the next week, another city the week after that. So fast forwarding again, I get onto the team. And then every other week, so twice a month, I started to travel to a different city and drop into that city and help that local real estate investor launch their business in their local market. Now, I had a unique skill set that I brought to this mentoring team because I was having great success in a very competitive market of Denver. And so I would get some of the more challenging markets at times. They would send me to the San Diegos and they would send me to the Minneapolises, markets that were higher priced and markets that were more similar to what I was experiencing in Denver. I taught their curriculum, I worked through their curriculum, but we got out into the streets and we saw neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood, and we looked at the market and we figured it out. This is what was interesting. Because then I would get into a different market and maybe not a Denver, a San Diego, a Minneapolis, a Miami. I would get into something else. And I would see a very different approach to real estate investing, a very different type of market. And what I discovered was every other week going to a different market, East Coast to West Coast, Canada to Mexico, all over the country. What I figured out was that it didn't matter who the investor was. It didn't matter who I was working with. Whether I showed up and the guy or gal picked me up in a 7 Series BMW and was dressed sharp, or they picked me up in a beat-up Chrysler minivan and he had dirty, work pants on because, he just got out from underneath a sink. It didn't matter the person or the car or the thing as it related to their success. What mattered more consistently to quick and consistent success was the market that they were in. And so I began to get curious about this. And I started to ask some questions. And the questions I was asking was, why? What is it about this market versus that market? Yeah, I can see that the prices are higher here, the prices are lower there. Yeah, I can see maybe the historical appreciation has been different in one or the other. Maybe I can see this one cash flows a little bit better. But what was it about the markets that actually produced the results or gave more consistent, easy results? And that was the background that kind of pulled the engineering side of me out and had me analyze some of the data and really dive in and say, why does the market matter? And how can I find markets that are consistently giving as it relates to profitable real estate deals? And can I repeat that process? And that whole approach to real estate investing helped me ultimately build and define the TrueRank market ranking system. It helped me figure out how to define and categorize easy profit cities, because you go from market selection, and then even if you have a market that is an easy profit city, you still have to be able to grid the market and identify inside of that market where should you be focusing and putting your energy and effort. And so that's a little bit of the backstory, Mike.
Huge.
It was getting on the ground in multiple cities week after week after week. And I've told the story about Tacoma, Washington, and the Hilltop area on this podcast before. I won't revisit that. You can go back and listen to that on some of our other virtual market episodes. But that was a light bulb moment where I saw a market give massive profits to investors that were participating in that market. And I thought to myself, how do I do that on purpose? Not accidentally, or not get lucky, or not have to wait for the next upward swing in the national economy. How do I intentionally get lucky consistently? How do I intentionally find those types of opportunities across the country? And that's what sort of birthed my investment thesis and why we're sitting here today.
Yeah, it's a key story because of your experiences, and I just think it's fascinating. that you were paying attention to, okay, here's who I'm coaching, here's how they showed up, like you mentioned, here's what they were driving, and then there wasn't necessarily a correlation between what they picked you up in and how they did with real estate. So,
Right.
yeah, it's just a great story on how you landed here.
Yep.
And then the fact that you've been teaching it for a long time now, it's just it's such a game changer because markets have a cost, cost per lead, cost per deal, and you'll find that if you're not in an easy profit city, those numbers can be 10x or more higher than when you truly get into an easy profit city.
Right.
And so a lot of times, and I think we mentioned this on a few podcasts ago, but how many investors out there got out and were told or given some really good information, or they sought out good information on what to do, and then they went to their own backyard and applied it,
Yep.
and didn't get a result, and then came to the conclusion that I guess this doesn't work. Where if they would have done the same actions in a different market, they likely would have had a lot more success, and they had no clue that it wasn't them or it wasn't the method. It was where they were trying to apply the method.
Yeah.
That's right.
We see that all the time. And I think they correlate their action with like the familiarity of their backyard, right? Because it makes them feel comfortable, or they think that because I know so much about the place that I grew up or the place that I live, it's going to make my investing business work better than if I went into a market that I didn't know anything about. When in reality, when you just study the data, the learning of a market, really, especially with FreedomSoft, I mean, we did it last week on the podcast. I mean, you're from 0 to 100 about knowing everything about inventory of sellers and buyers in a matter of 15 minutes in FreedomSoft. So that's number one that we see a lot, is correlating how comfortable you feel with your backyard to the success you have. And people feel like those are related. And then another thing that we see, especially with the higher end markets like a Denver or like what you've been saying, is people correlate success with like the price of the housing that is in the market, right? They feel, oh, this is a really popular market, so this is where I obviously need to be because the paychecks are higher.
Yep.
And then going to like what Mike said, that may be true when you get to that deal, but the time it takes to get to that deal is much, the span of time is much longer than if you were in a easy profit city.
Yep.
The sum of all the deals that you could do in a smaller period of time is more than that one deal in a Denver or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, let's say that it takes you. Let's say that you're in a high priced, a non-easy profit city, a higher price market, more competitive, less distressed, less observable distressed in this inventory, but still decent buyer activity. There's still people doing fix and flips. A couple things I'll say. If you pick a market inside of any market in the country, where you choose to buy and hold and where you choose to fix and flip are often not the same neighborhoods. So it's not the same areas that different exit strategies work the best in. So number one, you've got to understand that inside of the market, if you grid out your market, you'll see exit strategies happening in certain parts of the market and other exit strategies happening in other parts of the market. So that's the first thing that I'll mention there, is that when you get into a market, you've got to be able to dissect it, okay? The second thing that I'll say is there are different types or categories of markets. Now, we talk a lot about the boom bust markets, your high priced, rapidly appreciating and then crash driven markets. They go up in that 17-year cycle. They go up and then they crash, and then they go up and they crash, and they go up and they crash. And they do this historically. They've done it historically for 100 years. They've done it more noticeably since the early 70s when the U.S. economy was put on the fiat currency system, right? Where the stability of currency being tied to an underlying asset like gold was taken away, and fractional reserve banking was brought into place. Since the early 70s, you see the boom and the bust, and you see the crashes. Now, that's your boom bust market. You also see what we would call a price stable market. And a price stable market doesn't have the big up and down swings that a boom bust market has. A price stable market has slightly upward trendings and then downward trendings. They don't move probably more than 20% up and down historically. Whereas a boom bust market can move, 60, 70, 80% of its price up and down through the boom and the bust. Price stable markets tend to be lower priced as well. So those 20 to 30% up and down swings are much smaller from a dollar standpoint than the boom bust markets, which are higher priced. So a 70% swing on a $200,000 or $300,000 market is significantly different than a 20% swing on a $65,000 to $75,000 market. And so the dollar swings are massive. That's categorically how we kind of look at markets: boom bust, price stable. Now, inside of those markets, let's just say that you pick a market. Let's just say that you say, hey, I've learned this strategy. I'm going to invest virtually, and I'm going to blindly throw a dart against the wall, and whatever city I land in, I land in. Well, let's say that you land in what would categorize as a non-easy profit city, boom bust market, higher priced. Today, that's probably a more competitive, expensive market that the sellers, the owners of the real estate, have equity, which means they bought it a few years ago. It's gone up significantly in value. So even if they have to drop their price in order to sell, they have the room, they have the margin to sell. That's why a lot of times you'll have the same number potentially of interested sellers, but you don't have motivated sellers. Or you don't have motivated sellers that need the solution that a wholesaler can provide, because they have the equity to drop their price and sell at retail. And so in a boom bust market, non-easy profit city, higher price point, in the phase of the market that we're in today, where prices have risen over the last decade, those markets tend to be longer time frames to a deal, because you're going to get interested sellers, but they're not going to be motivated enough to accept your offer on a consistently regular basis. And so the time to deal is lengthened. Well, what happens when your time to deal is lengthened? The cost of marketing and the consistency that you have to have in your marketing also goes up. So the time frame goes up to get a deal, and the cost goes up just by nature of you have to stay consistent and do marketing longer, so your price per deal goes up. Now, hey friends, Rob Swanson here. Let me jump in and talk to you really quick about the Real Estate Mogul Academy. You might be sitting back listening to this and saying, how do I get in proximity with these guys? How do I have these kind of conversations, water cooler, hallway conversations every single day to help me go where I want to go in my real estate investing business? Whether you're just getting started or you're already a seasoned pro trying to elevate and go to that next step, the Real Estate Mogul Academy might be for you. What we'd like to do is offer you a free strategy session where someone from my team will jump on the phone. We'll talk about where you are, where you want to go, and how the Real Estate Mogul Academy might be the right fit for you. If you're saying to yourself, that sounds great, let's do it, go to mogulmembers.com, fill out your name and your contact information, and let's jump on the phone and let's chat. Let's see if we can help you go where you want to go this year. Your margin on that deal is probably going to be 3-5, times that of an easy profit city. You're going to make more money on that single deal, but you have to be willing to wait to get it, and you have to be willing to invest more money along the way in order to pick it up. in order to find that opportunity. And so the premise of an easy profit city is let's go speed to deal, fast opportunity to a deal, and lower cost. Well, when your time frame to a deal goes down, is compressed, what is your cost? It's lower by nature of the amount of money you have to spend on your marketing, how long you have to do it. Now, we see this consistently all the time, right? If you're in an easy profit city and you figure out how to grid the market and you understand what the exit strategy is in an area, we see people go from struggle to success in a very, very rapid period of time. They've been spending money. They've been doing this thing over here. They've been trying, and it's been taking long, and they're chasing this, $50,000, $60,000 deal, and they're hoping, and they finally say, you know what? Fine. Been listening to you long enough. Let me go ahead and try what you're telling me. I don't have any basis for it, but let me try. And almost consistently, almost every time, short of saying absolutes, right? Short of saying all the time, people have quick success when they make that move. Now, the two things still have to happen. There still has to be effort and skill. You've still got to put in the work at a sufficient level of skill to get the result. But the marketing you do, which we can show you what marketing to do, how to do it, how to track it, that's a repeatable system. That works. Then you as the human step in, and now you have to work. That's the thing that takes it ultimately across the finish line. But what you'll find is when you see that you have consistent opportunity and you're not scratching your head, frustrated, and trying to figure out where your next deal is coming from, when you know that your pipeline is being built and you have opportunity in front of you, skill is easier, to be honest with you. It's easier to have a conversation with somebody, i.e. a seller, when you're not desperate. If you think I'm talking to a seller and I haven't talked to a seller in 75 days, I finally got somebody to respond to my marketing, I got them on the phone, I gotta make this deal happen. You become desperate and you do and you say stupid things, and that deal falls apart. Whereas if you know that your pipeline is deep and you've got consistent opportunity, and you know that if this deal doesn't happen today, that there's going to be another one tomorrow and after that and next week, and there's opportunity always coming your way, that's the nature of an easy profit city. You become a better real estate investor.
Yeah, you know what, Rob? Let me just highlight this because, it's critical for people to hear that speed to deal and cost of that deal is faster and lower than if you were in a different market. And I think these are like two critical pillars of an easy profit city that you need to think about and that you just spoke about. And I don't want to pass that up. I want people to hear that. Like the why do you choose your market? Yep. And be intentional about it. Speed to deal, and not just your first deal, your second, your third, your fourth, your fifth, so on and so forth. And so I just wanted to highlight that because it's massive for somebody to shift their mindset to say, oh, I understand that now, that I can get speed to every one of my deals much quicker, and that brings my costs down, and I can, and also my reps up. So my skill that you just spoke about is going to go up faster as well. So anyways, I just wanted to highlight that because it's super massive for people to hear that. Answering the big why would I do this?
Totally. Well, the value of getting in the right market, right? If you're a real estate investor and you've identified your exit strategy, there's only two exit strategies, right? That that you're really going to be thinking about. You're going to buy and resell it, or you're going to buy and hold it. Now, the acquisition strategy that you employ to put that deal together, like that can be a couple dozen different techniques. You can do all sorts of different things to put the deal together. But then at the end of the day, once that deal is put together, you're going to either buy and sell it, and that might mean you're a wholesaler. You might just flip the deal. You might buy and sell it retail or to another investor, turnkey, or something like that. But you're either going to short-term be in that deal short-term, buy it and sell it, or you're going to be in that deal long-term, buy it and hold it. And so when you start to break this apart, and you say, okay, first, I just need to identify an easy profit city. I've made the decision whether I'm a new real estate investor and I'm looking for an easier way to generate cash, or I'm an experienced real estate investor and I'm looking to add a consistent cash flow and cash generation approach or strategy to my existing business. Flipping virtually in an easy profit city is a great way to do it. And it's a great thing to strategize and put to work in your business. And, one of the things so Mike, you and I are getting on the airplane tomorrow. We're going to fly out to Memphis. And people say, well, if you're going to do this virtually and you can do this from anywhere in the country, why are you getting on an airplane and flying out to Memphis? Well, because the ability to do this business virtually is you never have to set foot in any city that you flip in. You never have to. But the level of knowledge, yeah, right, Henry, yeah. You're a good example of that. But the level of knowledge you will gain not only about whatever market you go to, but your ability to read other markets and see opportunities that others miss when you get boots on the ground in a market is exponentially improved. And people can't understand it until they experience it. I promise you, I've done these trips for over a decade, and I've taken extremely experienced, successful real estate investors, guys and gals that are flipping, own large portfolios of real estate, flipping dozens to hundreds of deals a year, but they do it in their local area. And I've taken them to other markets. And some of these guys and gals I've taken to multiple different markets in order to show them the difference. And the aha and the light bulb moments that go on just going through that process is pretty fun to watch. And it never ceases to amaze me that even experienced real estate investors get, I don't want to say pigeonholed, but they see the world through the lens of the market they invest in. And they don't recognize that other markets are different. And as soon as they make that aha, that awareness, not only do they look at a new market, so they look at a new market, but then they don't have to apply their local market lens to the new market because they've learned how to evaluate the new opportunity. And that's the difference. A lot of times, experienced investors take what they know in their local market or take what they know from back, history and their experiences, and they try to take what they know and look at a new market with that lens. And it's blurry. They don't see the opportunity. And once you learn how to sort of scrub what you believe, and you learn a process to evaluate a new market, you can see it with clarity. And opportunity raises its hand on a consistent basis. That's the neat thing about it. And, Mike, we're about to give some folks that experience over the next couple of days.
Yeah, and I just want to speak to this. You said pigeonholed, and then you said maybe that's not the right way to say it. I think it is. Everybody, to some degree, is operating out of how they're comfortable. And that could be a really, really experienced investor that's killing it, but they maybe have dipped their toe outside the market or, tried some marketing elsewhere. It didn't go as planned. They say, oop, I just got to reel this back in. And so I think it would be wrong to make an assumption that the experienced investors know how this methodology works. I don't think that's the case. I think they've sort of figured out their own market, but don't fully understand. This has been my experience anyway, how to get outside or how to even look at a market. And this is why, back to your point, you've taken really successful investors on trips like this, and they had their eyes open. And I think the power here, Rob, is that the entire country, now you wouldn't choose to go into every market in the entire country, but the advantage here is, hey, I've been operating in this market. Oh, it looks like there's some things out of my control that are changing it. What are you going to do? Fold up shop? Start closing fewer deals? No. Let me just go find another one.
Right.
That I can get back to. And it allows you to control ultimately your business. Because if the market changes and you don't know how to evaluate other markets, you're stuck with whatever you get. This really allows you to take control and drive your business. It says, like Denver, you mentioned it years ago, Denver started to change. And I remember there was a point where you said, we're done in Denver. It's getting too competitive. The available inventory is drying up. We're just going to go elsewhere.
Yep.
And it wasn't some earth-shattering, sky is falling, what the heck are we going to do now? It was just, hey, let's go look at some other markets. Found, other market A, B, and C, 1, 2, 3, whatever you want to call it. Continue on.
Yeah.
So from a control of your business and income and lifestyle standpoint, this is a really, really key topic today that we're diving into.
Yeah, and it's interesting because market selection is important from the standpoint of what the macro economy is doing, right? At different times of the economy, different times of the real estate cycle, you might choose to invest in different markets. And, that was me, right? I was in the early 2000s, late 90s in Denver. I moved out, went virtual. When the crash of 2008 happened, I brought things back to Denver in the in the dip of Denver. And then that, the market turned and skyrocketed back up. Boom, bust, right? And then boom again. And so it was that process where my sort of macro investing thesis hit. And then the question is, how do we take that to a micro level? Inside of a market, how do we participate in the opportunity that's doing something similar, but not related to the national economy? How do we take advantage of something that's happening in the local market? Where are those neighborhoods? Where are the pockets? Where's the inventory? Where's the activity? Where are investors making money in a local market? And is there anything popping? Is there anything that I should be participating in today? One of the things that I have done in almost every market that I go into, I go on Upwork, Upwork.com, and which is a freelancer virtual assistant service, and I post a job ad. And I post a job ad that says, I need some online research done. I need it done in the next 5 to 8 hours. You have to have access to the internet. I need attention to detail, and I need somebody that can start in the next hour or less. I post this job ad. And what I do is I have them go into whatever market I'm interested in, and I have them go and go to Zillow, go to Realtor.com, and go to the For Rents, and they go build me a list of every property, address, bedroom, bathroom, square foot, and list price, rental list price. What's it listed for rent at? I do that for everything that's for rent, and then I go and I do the same thing across that market, everything that's for sale. I get 2 big spreadsheets full of all of the inventory that is on market available in that market. And then I graph it. And I say, what's the lowest rent? And this is all for single family house. I don't do it for duplexes, triplexes, quads, apartments, all for single family houses. Now you could do the same thing for the other types of real estate, but don't mix the type. Keep it single family. And then I'll graph it and I'll say, well, what's the lowest rent? What's the highest rent? And what's the median? And what we're trying to do is get a picture of where does the rental rates start and stop, and where does the majority of the rental inventory fall? Is it between $900 and $1,100 a month? Is it between $1,700 and $2,000 a month? Where's the majority of the rental inventory? So I graph this data and I look at it in a variety of different ways. Then I do the same thing on the house side, or on the listed for sale side, so the price side of the market. And I say, well, where does the market kind of group? Like, where's the most inventory? And what I'll do then is I'll go through and I'll have a VA look up the price of all of the rental houses. And so we'll put a price on it. And I'll look at my price to rent ratio in a local market. And I'll see where is the best cash flow opportunity in a particular market. What's the right price to rent range, right? If a house is valued at $100,000 and it rents for $800, that's going to be a lower price to rent ratio than if a house is worth $100 but it rents for $1,450. I want to see that, and I want to be able to target. That's how I target in on neighborhoods and areas. It's also how one of the ways that we target in on sort of our neighborhood grades, right? And so when you grid out a market, you've got your A neighborhoods, B's, C's, D's, and war zones. And from a top level category, those neighborhood grades are based on owner-occupant to tenant-occupant ratios. So your A neighborhoods are 95% owner-occupied, 5% tenant. Your B neighborhoods are 80% owner-occupied, 20% tenant. Your C neighborhoods are 50-50. Your D neighborhoods are 20% owner-occupied, 80% tenant. And then your war zones are 95%, 5% owner-occupied, 95% tenant. And so they flip from A to down to war zone. Now, I look at the price to rent ratios, I look at the grouping of prices, and then I start to categorize neighborhoods, zip codes, and areas based on A's, B's, C's, D's, and war zones. And I might give it a C plus to C minus, or a D plus, and I might give it a B minus. And I'm looking for, and generally once you get there, you're going to find that most of the investor activity is happening in your C to C plus to B minus neighborhoods. Now, there's a lot of opportunity in your C minus to D plus for wholesalers. And depending on what your appetite for property management is, buy and hold in your C minus to D plus. The thing that I'll tell you, if you buy and hold in those areas, you're either going to be an active, aggressive manager, or you're going to realize that Excel is the biggest liar on the face of the earth. Because what the Microsoft Excel spreadsheet tells you your return is going to be and your cash flow is going to be in a D neighborhood is oftentimes not what reality presents. Murphy tends to show up in those neighborhoods. And so they just don't operate long term, as well as in your C plus, B minus neighborhood. So all that being said, that was my little rabbit trail. But the point is to grid a market, because pick the market first, grid the market second, and then apply your marketing and your deal acquisition strategies inside of that market. And again, you're looking for what we call the honey hole. And when you start to answer those questions that we talk about all the time, where are investors buying, who is buying, what are they buying, and then what price are they paying? You as a wholesaler get to go into a market and go speed to deal very, very quickly. And then you get to choose, do I want to just flip this to another investor? Or do I want to keep this myself? Do I want to fix and flip it myself? Do I want to buy and hold it myself? When you control the deal flow, when you control the inventory, your exit strategy is your choice. You get to do what you want to do. And that's a fun place to be. And that's why we always teach people, start as a wholesaler, learn the market, figure out where you want to do deals, and then start to cherry pick the best deals for yourself as you build cash and get into this game a little bit. So, Mike, that's what we're going to be doing over the next couple of days, and just giving people that experience, showing them what a market is all about, and kind of walking them through this process to not only pick an easy profit city, but then grid that market and then launch the marketing so that the speed to deal is fast and the cost to deal is low and the consistency of deal is there.
Love it. Looking forward to it. This is the opposite of winging it.
Right.
Right. There's so much thought that's gone into this on the process, and it's just common to see kind of this shotgun approach. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm kind of ignorance on fire. Let me throw some things out there. And so, a lot of times if you're active, you can drum up a deal or two. What's way better is, Rob, this process that you just laid out clearly.
Yep.
This is very, very, very targeted, running on data, not on a hunch, not on some hearsay.
Yep.
Letting data drive the activity. And, of course it gets a better result.
Yeah, well, it gets a better result. It's gotten better results for me for 20 years. And like the stuff that we teach and the stuff that we do and the stuff that we show others to take advantage of, it works, and it works consistently. And that makes it fun, because when something works and it works repeatedly and I can hang my hat on it and I can look, whether you're brand new or you've been doing this for over a decade and are an experienced pro, I can look you in the eyes and say, I can show you something and a way to see opportunity through a lens that you may not be currently thinking about. That's a pretty fun thing to watch those light bulb moments go on. So, guys, as we wrap this one, is there anything that we noodled on prior to hitting record that we need to be talking about here that we haven't touched on, or are we? I think we're pretty good.
I think we covered it.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for jumping back on the couch and into the studio and chatting with me today. If you guys got value out of this, you know the drill. Go ahead and like this, subscribe, share it with your friends, and give us a thumbs up out on social media. I'm Rob Swanson, and for the whole studio crew today, we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
Peace.
Hey friends, Rob Swanson here. Let me jump in and talk to you really quick about the Real Estate Mogul Academy. You might be sitting back listening to this and saying, how do I get in proximity with these guys? How do I have these kind of conversations, water cooler, hallway conversations every single day to help me go where I want to go in my real estate investing business? Whether you're just getting started or you're already a seasoned pro trying to elevate and go to that next step, the Real Estate Mogul Academy might be for you. what we'd like to do is offer you a free strategy session where someone from my team will jump on the phone. We'll talk about where you are, where you want to go, and how the Real Estate Mogul Academy might be the right fit for you. If you're saying to yourself, that sounds great, let's do it, go to mogulmembers.com, fill out your name and your contact information, and let's jump on the phone and let's chat. Let's see if we can help you go where you want to go this year.